Folks, we're going to get started in just a few seconds. If you can find your way to a seat, please. Okay, everyone. Good evening and welcome to our District 3 Town Hall meeting. My name is Chris Trumbauer. I work for County Executive Stuart Pittman. I'll be serving as your moderator today. Also, I just came up here and I've got a sheet of hall passes. If anybody needs something, I can hook you up there. This is our fourth town hall, so we've got it running pretty smoothly now. The way it's going to work is we're going to have opening remarks from the council member, Mr. Volke, and then County Executive Pittman. Mr. Pittman is also going to show a very brief slideshow presentation above me that just lays out some basic facts about the budget and the fiscal situation. Then the most important part, we're going to take public comment and hear what you guys have to say about what you want to see in the budget, and then we'll end up with closing remarks from the council member and from the county executive. So with that, I'll turn it over to bring his remarks forward, Councilman Nathan Volke.
Get that there. Okay. Thank you, Mr. Trumbauer. Thank you, County Executive Pittman. Good evening. My name is Nathan Volke. It's a privilege to be here this evening, and it's also a privilege to represent you all on the County Council. I want to welcome the County Executive to Pasadena. Obviously, he has been here quite a few times, so I want to give him a lot of credit for that. I've spent my whole life in Pasadena. I'm a product of Anne Arundel County Public Schools, and I previously had the chance to serve on the Anne Arundel County Library Board with Ben Burge over here, who's now the Chief Administrative Officer, Skip Auld, who's the head of the Library Board, Dan Ramirez, I see from the library, so a lot of great folks from the libraries are around. And I'm really pleased this evening to join with the county executive to get a chance to hear directly from you all about what your priorities are for the upcoming budget. As you know, this is not something that's required, but let's again give credit to the county executive for hosting these events around the county with each of us and bringing us together to hear this. And he and I obviously share the same goal, which is to hear directly from you. So I'm not going to talk a lot about my budget priorities this evening because I'm more interested in hearing your budget priorities. That's what this is about. Before we go too far, I want to introduce my legislative assistant, Sarah Gannon, who's here. Sarah, can you please raise your hand? There she is. Yep. So Sarah grew up, lives here in Pasadena. She is another product of Pasadena. She has a wealth of knowledge on how to get things done around here. So if we can be of assistance to you, please reach out and let us know. Tonight's discussion, I realize, is going to focus a lot on funding requests, and I think that is very important because we need to hear what you want funded. The other side of that is obviously revenue, and I would also like to hear from folks, which I have not heard a lot of in the first three budget town halls that have taken place, on how they expect the funding to happen on certain things. I've had a chance to watch, they're all recorded, thankfully, and so I've had a chance to watch all three of the previous budget hearings and get to hear what people said, and I think that's something that's been a little bit missing from the conversation. One of the campaign priorities that I made was to incrementally continue improving our county infrastructure, ensuring that we're paying for services and for our great county employees, but also pledging not to increase taxes. And traditionally, that's been a bipartisan stand here in the county, keeping taxes low, and that's why we have some of the lowest tax rates in the state of Maryland. Many people choose to live and retire here because we are one of the most tax-friendly jurisdictions in the state. And there have actually been 4 years, the county executive will point this out, where the tax rate was below what was allowed. Interestingly, they were all election years, and they happened under both Democratic and Republican county executives. So that gets to the bipartisan point. And based on the current tax revenue, you all know that we're about to have $57.2 million in additional revenue. That's what we're looking at for next year, assuming tax rates stay the same. But that sounds like a lot. It goes really quickly. 600,000 people in a county this size, that money does not go all that far. And so again, I want to credit the county executive for this great budget tool that they've put on their website, which allows people to go in and sort of mix and match priorities to see if we add this is what it's going to cost. If we say we want more teachers or more police or more fire or more apparatus, these are the costs. So I want to give them credit for that. But the other piece of it that it also shows is sort of the back-end cost of county employees too, which is the health care and the pension benefits. So obviously when you see the number for what a teacher costs or another county government employee, you can note that not all of that is salary. Obviously a certain degree of that is going to be the other pieces of what the county provides. And those benefits are frankly one of the big reasons why a lot of people have chosen to continue working for this county, because we do have those good benefits. And when we think about the budget, just like in our own household budgets, we have to be cognizant of what the impact is. So I'm pretty frugal. I know the county executive is pretty frugal. You can talk to my wife or anybody that knows me. We've lived in the same townhouse for the last 7 years. We bought that after I finished law school. We've had to make tough spending decisions to save for retirement because we both work in the private sector and don't have pensions or other forms of sort of a future income that we're not saving for. And we've also had to sacrifice some luxuries while we've paid off my student loans, which fortunately we did last year. We've had high deductible health insurance plans the whole time we've been working, so we've had to deal with some of these tough things in life, particularly when my son was born 2 months early, and we had to deal with those significant life and financial challenges. So I get the balance of all of this, and I hope that all of you do too, because obviously there is a piece of it which is what are we going to fund, but the other side is where's the money going to come from? And so I've heard some proposals to increase our property taxes. I've heard proposals about the income tax. And I just want to point out that if we were to increase the tax in Anne Arundel County on incomes from 2.5% where we are now to 3.2%, which is where a lot of other central Maryland jurisdictions are, the average family in this county would pay about $700 more a year in taxes. And that's, in my opinion, quite a bit of money. So that's just talking about raising the income tax. There are certain people who would say that in this county we can just tax high earners, and I know that that's obviously a popular refrain in politics, but the problem with that is that if you look at where the growth of income has been in this county, so there has been a shift. There's a report, Poverty Amidst Plenty, that came out in 2015, and that report talks about the fact that there has been a sort of shrinking of the middle class. But the question is, where do those folks go? Well, frankly, they've gone toward the higher ends of the income scale. We've seen a large increase in people who are making over $100,000 or even $200,000, and there really hasn't been that much increase at the bottom. So I think that's important to consider when we're talking about tax increases, because frankly, those tax increases are probably going to hit a lot of people in this area. So we need to be thinking about that. Frankly, we all want to make Anne Arundel County the best place, and that's the county executive slogan, and I think it's a great slogan. But one of the best things about this county is that we have traditionally had a great balance between low taxes, great people, and excellent county services. I've campaigned that I was not planning to raise taxes, and the county executive did as well. So I'm intending to stand by that in this next budget process, and I'm thrilled to be here tonight to hear what you all want us to do. So I'm looking forward to getting that direction. So with that, I look forward to hearing from you, and I thank you for your time.
Thank you, council member. And now it's my pleasure to bring up to the podium your county executive, Stuart Pittman.
Thanks for coming out, everybody. This is number 4 of 7. So we're getting each of the council districts, and it's true that these aren't required. There was a charter amendment that you all passed in 2016. I think 80% or so of the voters said that the county executive should hold hearings before producing a budget and bringing it to the county council. Good news is the county council does hearings as well, so you won't be done after May 1st. I present our budget on May 1st. But we thought that with a new council and me as a new county executive, I assume we'll do this every year, but that we should do one in every council district and to do it with the council members. And it's great doing this with Nathan. Nathan and I are from different political parties, and I'll be honest with you, I didn't really think I was going to like him because I thought, but I got to tell you, I like this guy. I mean, this guy is smart. This guy does his research. You see him at the council meetings, and I think we're going to have a fun 4 years together. And the council is, as you know, it's 7 people. It was 7 men. It's now 5 women and 2 men. It flipped party-wise, but that's not the issue. Yeah, I mean, I think we're going to have a good relationship between the administration and the council, and that's very important to me. I think it's very important to the council, and that means we can get things done without a lot of unnecessary fireworks. So, I want to just point out that Anne Arundel County, the obvious, which is that we have grown fast. We grow about 1% a year in population. That's about 5,000 people. The projections are that we'll continue to grow. Our student population has actually grown quite a bit faster than the rest of our population. And then when you look at some of the services that are required with the new population, the one that really threw me for a loop was when I found out that call volume for fire and EMS goes up by 5% a year each of the last 7 years. So, you know, we know that there are infrastructure problems. We know that traffic has gotten worse and worse and worse. We know that classroom sizes have increased in our schools, and there's a real sense among a lot of people that we got to catch up. You know, we set impact fees back in 2009 based on a study. So developers pay a fee when they develop new housing, and the consultant said that, told us what those fees should be. We went on the road improvement side of impact fees, we went with 47% of what the consultant said. So if you look back over time since 2009 at the revenue that we would have generated had we done the impact fee that the professionals said that we should do, rather than the impact fee that the developers said we should do, we lost out on $107 million that could have been used for road improvements. The impact fee for public safety and schools was also lower than it should have been. It wasn't quite as drastic as for roads. And I've been sitting through meetings the last 2 days, 4-hour sessions with Public Works and Rec and Parks, talking about the capital improvements budget, and it was pointed out today that state revenue to our county for roads went from pre-recession $36 million to about $1 million now. So state money for roads has pretty much disappeared. So we're practically on our own. We hope that some of that will come back, but it's been a difficult situation. So I want to go through this slideshow. I do believe that we're at a moment where we have to make some decisions about whether to invest more in our county, or whether not to, and whether to continue on as we have. I did say in the campaign that I hoped that we wouldn't be raising taxes, that I thought that $50 million a year increase in revenue would be enough. But I also didn't sign the no tax increase pledge, so I'm open to, in fact, I wasn't invited, but I'm open to the possibility of increasing revenue if that's what we've got to do to catch up with some of the places where we've been left behind. And that's part of the conversation that we have to have at these budget town halls, and that's why we're having them. So, slides. Okay. First, we have the timeline. I'll do this quickly because it's pretty basic stuff. If you've been online and seen the budget tool, you've seen at the county website, you've seen some of this stuff. The budget tool does let you create your own budget. And I got to give kudos to the IT department who threw it together in about 3 weeks' time. We didn't think we'd be able to pull it off this year, and they did it. Next year, we'll have an even more robust tool where people can really play county executive and put together their own budget. But the departments have all been working on their budgets for a number of months, and right now we're here where it says you are here in March, and that's where the departments are bringing their supplemental requests, all of their requests, but their supplemental requests to me. So during the day, I sit through long meetings where I hear from the departments about what they want, and then in the evening, I'm coming out and I'm hearing from you all about how you feel about it. So I feel very good about it. I'm glad that I'm staying grounded, being out into the communities, and not just hearing from the bureaucrats. Sorry, any of you in the room. It's a terrible word, but the folks who run the agencies, and they're trying to stay within a budget too, and they're public servants, and they want to serve, and they want to do a good job with what they're doing. but I do need to be out in the communities hearing what everybody else has to say. Really quickly, the revenues to the county, the blue is property taxes, and that's the biggest chunk of money, 44%. Income tax is 33%. And the income tax is what you pay. They call it the piggyback sometimes on your state income tax. And all the other slivers are a whole lot smaller. And this doesn't include some of the dedicated funding sources. So you don't see impact fees because those are a separate source, and it has to be used for certain things. But we've got our little bit of a local sales tax, recordation and transfer tax on real estate, and some others I don't need to go through. And let's jump on to expenditures. And you can see the big blue disc is schools. It's just over 50%. And then we have public safety is the next biggest, the other blue one. And general government up there at about 12%. And everything else is smaller. And then if you go to the next slide, county funding to education is not just the $687 million that we do for the schools for operating budgets, but $81 million in debt service on building new stuff, the capital improvements, new schools, and then school health and school safety on top of that is what gets us over 50%. And I'm not going to go through all of these personnel costs. And the next slide is infrastructure costs. Those are the things that you'll see in the budget tool that you get to play with. I would just point out that when they say that a police officer costs $107,000, unfortunately for them, they don't get paid that much. That includes all the equipment in the car and everything else that comes with hire, and the pension and the benefits. Same with all of the other categories. Infrastructure costs I found interesting. Ladder truck is expensive, aren't they? Fire engines are expensive. And schools are expensive, $150 million for a new high school, $100 million for middle school, $50 million for an elementary school, approximately. Those are rough figures. But the most important slide, I think, is the next one, the fiscal 2020 projections, and that's what Nathan was referring to, the $57 million additional revenue we expect. I think they've recalibrated that. There's some concern about revenues for next year. The state has said they're not going to be quite what we thought. So they're telling us about $50 million, 40 to 50 million, it says here, in expected incremental increase, more than last year. But then when you go down into the expenditures, there are new expenses that we have to pay that we didn't have to pay last year. One of them, a big one, is debt service. So all of this new stuff that we're buying and building, the debt service has increased so that we could pay for that. And then, of course, there are the benefits, pension, health care, and labor costs based on contracts that have already been negotiated, raises that we know that we're going to be giving to employees. The next slide is property tax comparison. So we wanted to compare property and income tax to other counties so that you could see where we stand. The property tax side, where there's 4 below us, and then it goes up gradually. We're at 90 cents, just over 90 cents per $100 of assessed value right now on property tax. And the next slide is property tax history. And this gets us to this thing called the revenue cap, which probably everybody's heard of and nobody quite fully understands. We were at just over $1 in 1990, and we're at 90 cents today. The way the revenue cap works is that we're not allowed to collect more than a certain amount of revenue as our tax base grows. So we're only allowed to increase the revenue we take in our property taxes by the rate of inflation, or 4.5% if inflation is very high, but it's stayed lower than that. So in a good economy, as our tax base is growing fast, it's interesting. It means our tax rate goes down because we're collecting from a bigger base. And so the dip was the recession, and then it came back up again. So the next slide, we've got the 4 years that Councilman Volke mentioned where the county executives did not go to the full rate that is allowed under the revenue cap. Generally, because we have a revenue cap, it's easy politically to tax to the cap, and that's the level that we do on our property taxes. But in election years, they like to lower the tax rate in the hope that it will get that person reelected. And in those 4 years, they did not go to the cap. and they did a calculation of what that impact of that was on revenues to the county. Because every time you don't go to the cap, it means the next year and all the years after that, it lowers that threshold, so we can't go back up again. We can only go up by that rate of inflation. So that was a $470 million revenues that would have gone to the county had they gone to the cap in those years. Income tax comparison, 2 or below us. We're at 2.5%. And the maximum allowed by state law is 3.2%. And you can see there are about 7 or 8 counties in central Maryland who have gone to the top. Most are between us at 2.5 and them, and there are a couple of rural counties that are lower. So that's where we stand. Impact fees is another that everybody's looked at as a source of revenue, but unfortunately impact fees only count towards new development. So if we did the impact fee that the consultant asked us to do back in 2008 and we raised it somewhat, that might bring in about $8 million a year if development continues as projected. So again, that's not a huge amount of money. So as you are telling us what you think we should spend money on, we're not going to ask everybody to say exactly where it ought to come from, but I agree with Nathan that we need to understand how people feel about the revenue side of the equation as well. So I will end with that. And before I do that, I want to introduce your constituent service representative from our office, Reese Peak, right over here. All right. And so Reese's job is to, when you call and you're upset about something, he will soothe you. No, Reese will also try to connect you with the right agency, or he'll take the issue and he'll do the research for you. But he's also available to come out to your community meetings. And we've really encouraged our staff to work with the neighborhoods to grow those organizations and encourage people to get more involved and really be able to tell us what to do down at the Arundel Center. So that's very important. So now we want to hear from you.
Thank you, Mr. County Executive and Councilmember Volke. So when you came in, you had an opportunity to sign up to speak, and we're going to go through the list of folks that signed up. We're going to do 3-minute allotments, please, and I'm the bad guy. I'm keeping time with my little phone clock, and this annoying alarm will go off at 3 minutes. But to save you from that embarrassment, I have this professionally designed sign to warn you 30 seconds in advance. So with that, we will we'll call up the first 4 names, and you can either sit in the front row or gather behind the microphone. You don't have to go in order. But we'll start with Ann Akam, Dan Ramirez, Audra Butler, and Russell Leone. If you guys will come up, and please, you'll have 3 minutes, and state your name at the beginning of your testimony.
Can I go ahead?
Please.
Okay, thank you. Hello, my name is Ann Allum. I'm a District 3 resident. I teach at Chesapeake High School, and I'm in my 16th year of teaching. All 16 years have been in AACPS. Although I'm in my 16th year of teaching, I'm only being paid at Step 9, $10,173 less than what I should be receiving if I was at my appropriate step. Nothing has made me feel more undervalued, unappreciated, and just plain frustrated than the reality of newly hired teachers with my experience being paid on the step equivalent to their experience while I am not. AACPS and our former county executives should be embarrassed and ashamed that they ever created this situation, a situation where loyal veteran AACPS teachers are put behind new hires. I currently work multiple part-time jobs, including summer school, evening school, writing curriculum, and I hold an academic advising position at Chesapeake High School. As a matter of fact, I have to leave to go speak at Meet the Coaches Night, so I will not be able to stay for the entirety of this meeting. We preach equity amongst our students when we don't have it amongst our teachers. I did not start teaching till I was 38. I will work 30 years and retire at 68. If things remain status quo, I will never reach Step 25. If I receive only 2 makeup steps, I will reach Step 25 in my 30th year of teaching, which does not maximize the 3 years needed at Step 25 in regards to the salary my retirement is based on. The financial decisions you make this year will affect the rest of my life. We are losing so many qualified teachers. to surrounding counties because of the inequity and low wages. I did look at other counties. However, when it came down to deciding, I value being embedded in my community. I feel that I can make a bigger and more positive impact doing so than going to a surrounding county that pays me more. I fully realize that we are in a position to make up some of these missteps, and I also realize that every teacher employed at AACPS since 2008 has suffered financially to some degree. Please make equity a priority. Make us all whole. I will never make up the tens of thousands of dollars I have missed out throughout the years, but starting next school year at my appropriate step level will go a long way to making me feel valued as an AACPS employee. I don't take vacations. My compact car is 11 years old, and I wasn't able to help my children pay for their college tuition. I implore you to find the funds to practice what you preach, equity for all. Please provide the funding to put every teacher on their correct step. Thank you for listening.
Good evening, Mr. County Executive and Councilmember Volke. My name is Dan Ramirez, and I'm the proud manager of the Revere Beach Library. I'm testifying this evening in support of the library's budget, as well as to share with you the tremendous impact libraries have in our community. The Revere Beach and Mountain Road branches are in District 3. These important community resources serve nearly 70,000 residents. Last year, these two libraries had more than 130,000 visitors, and our customers checked out more than 255,000 books, CDs, and DVDs. The computer and skills training resources we offer are also life-changing. In 2018, customers in the district used our computers more than 57,000 times. Last year, more than 19,500 people in the district attended a library program on a variety of topics. Our weekly Every Child Ready to Read programs are helping prepare young children for school. Over 90,000 children and caregivers attended early literacy programs or received a visit from library staff in a daycare or preschool in 2018. If anyone thinks their organization would benefit from a visit by the library staff, just let your local library branch know. Community engagement is important to both library branches in District 3. Mountain Road and Revere libraries had Maryland Health Connect staff come to assist customers in applying for health insurance. Mountain Road Library hosted Narcan training as well as the Not My Child drug abuse awareness program. Mountain Road Library, in partnership with the Maryland Department of Natural Resources, continues to lend out fishing poles to customers. Just last month, our Revere Beach branch was a ballot box location for the Pasadena Business Association's first ever scavenger hunt, which sought to get the community familiar with the various businesses in the Pasadena area. Currently, the architectural firm of Grimm & Parker is nearing the end of its design process for the new Revere Beach Library. The facility is shaping up to be nearly 20,000 square feet with more meeting room space, quiet study rooms, and distinct service areas tailored to the needs of adults, teens, and young children. More information about the building project can be found on the library's website at aacpl.net. We also hope to provide, with your support, a temporary library facility that would provide a continuity of service while construction takes place. Construction may start as early as late fall of this year. A community meeting at the Revere Beach Library branch has just been scheduled for the evening of Tuesday, April 16th, starting at 7 p.m. with the architects to discuss the new building. All are welcome to attend. We welcome all to any of the 16 public library branches in the county, including your local branches here in District 3, Revere Beach, and Mountain Road. Thank you for your time, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Good evening. My name's Audra Butler, and I'm a lifetime Anne Arundel County resident. Just as you, Mr. Volke, I grew up in Pasadena. I'm a professor at Anne Arundel Community College, and I'm here to discuss the importance of Anne Arundel. I like to call it AACC, including how it impacts the community and personally my family, and to ask you to fully support the college's budget. First, my job at AACC, I teach a class called Student Success Seminar. At some colleges, they call it a freshman seminar, and it's basically a class that teaches students how to do college. This is a class that reaches students whose parents didn't attend college, Perhaps English isn't their first language at home, and for whatever reason, college may not have been possible, but they come to us with hope of graduating. I've taught this seminar for 8 years, over 8 years, and I've really seen lives changed. Students who've pulled themselves out of poverty, students who graduate and move on to universities, they knock down barriers, they set goals for themselves, and they move forward with new jobs and advanced degrees. I've been at graduation ceremonies where students walking across the stage, that's the first person in their family to ever graduate from college, and it's really an awesome experience. If you've never been to an AACC graduation, I suggest you go. It's a big pick-me-up. So this brings me to my next point. AACC graduations that I've actually seen in my family, cousins, brother, my son. Over the past 10 years, many of my family members have graduated from AACC. I have a cousin who's working on her degree in Frostburg in engineering, and she graduated from AACC. I have another cousin who's an RN at Arundel Medical Center, and my son is studying cybersecurity at UMUC, and he graduated from UMUC. My family comes from a working class background here in Pasadena, and we don't have the resources to all go away and pay for college for 4 years with expensive tuition and board. And AACC has the same rigorous coursework and degrees to earn a good living in this county. So lastly, how does this relate to my story and who I am? I'm now a professor at the college, but I wasn't always an academic. I graduated from Chesapeake in 1990, yes, I'll say it, and I wasn't sure what I wanted to be when I grew up, but my parents knew I needed to go to college. They did not attend college, but they sent me to AACC. I went there, I didn't know how to buy books, I didn't know how to build a schedule, but I figured it out there. Since then, I've earned a bachelor's degree from Towson, a master's from Goucher, and I'm currently working on a doctorate degree from Morgan State University on community college leadership. I don't say this to brag, I say this because I started at AACC. I began my career there. It's there where I learned to write a great research paper, use math to solve real-world problems, and navigate this thing called college. So please fund the college. Thank you.
Good evening, County Executive Pittman and Councilman Volke. My name is Russell Leone, and I'm a proud elementary teacher and the president of the Teachers Association. I'm speaking on behalf of the teachers. Last time I spoke, I said our kids are waiting, but actually I need to correct that. Our kids can't wait. Last night in Annapolis, over 8,000 people came together as a state, parents, teachers, education support professionals, county executives, including our own. We had so much support, and our kids can't wait. They can't wait for counselors who have caseloads that are in line with the industry standards. Currently, our counselors and our school psychologists have hundreds of kids on their caseloads, and they can't possibly service them in the way that they need them. Our kids can't wait for class sizes that are lower. We need more teachers in our classrooms because 40 kids in an elementary school classroom, absolutely unacceptable. Most of them should be about 22. We've got elementaries as high as 30. We've got high schools as high as 50. They're larger than some of the lecture halls I've been in. I went to, admittedly, a small university, Bowie State, but I can't even imagine that environment for our high schoolers. Our kids can't wait for teachers who are paid fairly. They need equity because it is heartbreaking that the kids will notice when teachers are resentful of the person next door to them who are making thousands of dollars more through no fault of their own. It impacts the collaboration, it impacts the morale in the schools, and it impacts the education that's being provided. We want the best for our kids, and that's why we're speaking tonight, because we need funding so we can fix this problem. So everything that you can do to fix our funding, get us where we need to be, because it's not only about us, it's about our kids and it's about their future. Thank you.
Okay, we'll call up the next 4 names, please. Joanne Zoller-Wagner, Joe Adavanola, Brian Holtzlander, and Terry Portis. So please state your name at the beginning and you'll have 3 minutes.
Am I starting now?
Please.
Okay. When I signed up to speak, I was asked by the constituent services guy, why are you here? And I said, I think he was saying, what are you going to talk about? And I said, because I love Anne Arundel County and I care about its future. And then I was listening to Nathan speak about, the money issue. And I know Stuart is a dreamer and a visionary, which we also need. And I'm thinking, they're dressing quite just alike. You would not be able to tell which one was Democrat, which one Republican. So I would like to suggest, I'm a big picture person, and I do have something I want to talk about, but I would like for us to get together and say, number one, what do we want for our county? What's necessary for quality of life and the future of our county? And number two, what are we willing to pay for? If we can answer those two questions, I think we can get together and solve this budget problem. By the way, I just did my budget homework and I submitted it with my email if you want to respond. And I learned a lot. It was actually kind of educational for me. I think the biggest bargain in the county is the senior centers, because I know how much they mean to the seniors. But that's not what I'm here to talk about. I taught in Anne Arundel County for 16 years, just recently retired. Don't ask me. I hate it when teachers ask me how it is when you're retired, because I want to say, wonderful. But I did love my job. I love the kids. And actually, I spent 9:15 to 2:15 today screening pre-K kids, new little people that are 4 and 5 years old. And they're just so utterly charming, and you just want the world for them. You want them to have a good education. And I was thinking, yes, Kerwin Commission, universal pre-K would be a really good idea, because when I taught in the county for 16 years, I could see a big difference between the kids who had had pre-K and the kids who had not had pre-K by the time they get to kindergarten. They know what school's about. And the little kids I was talking today were so proud of what they already knew, and they were just feeling really confident and wanted to show me everything they knew. And so I can just see why pre-K is so important. But at the same time, it's quite distressing to see all those cuts in the tax cap and the property taxes over the years and how much we've lost. And I think if we want quality education, we're going to have to fund the future.
Good evening. My name is Terry Portis, and I live right here in Pasadena, 1.3 miles from the Popeyes. That's how I figured it out. I'm the Director of Lifelong Learning in Anne Arundel Community College, and I've been there for 11 years. First and foremost, I want to say what AACC has meant to my family. My wife, who is deaf and has a balance disorder, has found a place to teach, and she also is a mentor to college students at AACC who are blind, who are in wheelchairs, who are on the autism spectrum, and the list goes on. I'm also proud that my two children both graduated from AACC, and while there and continue to volunteer and support students who are working to overcome challenges in their lives. In my department, Lifelong Learning, we serve 8,000 students each year. The youngest student I've had this year is 5. In our Kids in College program, the oldest student is 93. More than 5,000 of those 8,000 students are senior adults. We have classes at all our campuses and all the senior centers. Too often, seniors find themselves isolated and don't know how to stay active and vital. We provide affordable classes just for seniors that cover subjects from health and wellness to learning a new language like Chinese or Italian. In a recent survey we did, 91% of the senior adult students in one of our programs said that their classes at AACC were important to their quality of life. The 93-year-old, by the way, also teaches in our department, and he's one of my heroes. I also have the opportunity to teach psychology at night. My students are mostly working adults who take my class from 7:15 to 8:45 after they get off work. Many are parents who have to figure out childcare, fight the exhaustion of working all day, and then put the work in to be successful in the classroom. They're doing all of this to have a brighter future for themselves and often their children. These people deserve all the support we can give them. So I end this by saying, just thinking about some groups that I've seen served. If you're a middle school girl who wants to learn cybersecurity this summer, we have a place for you. If you're a person with a disability who wonders if you can make it on a college campus, we have a place for you. If you're a working class family who worries about how you can possibly send your kid to college, we have a place for you. And if you're one of those families whose kid has no idea what he wants to do, you can come to AACC and explore as well. We have a place for you. If you're a working adult who wants to come to college yourself, it's not too late, come on. And if you're a senior adult who wants to learn, to stay vital, to keep your mind alert, or to find a community of learners, we have a place for you. AACC is the community's college, and we ask that the county continue the strong funding support that makes all of this possible. Thank you.
Good evening, County Exec Pittman, Councilman Volk, Mr. Trumbauer, Joe Divinola, President, Anne Arundel County Professional Firefighters Local 1563. I'm here to speak for the fire department budget. Right now, Anne Arundel County Fire Department is at an all-time low in staffing. We're at dangerous levels. We have many stations going out with 2 people on an engine, truck, or squad. The national standards for surrounding jurisdictions in Baltimore City, Baltimore County, Howard, Montgomery County, they all go out the door with 4 on an engine. We have 4 stations out of 31 stations in Anne Arundel County that go out the door with 4 people on the engine. Right here in Pasadena, up until recently, Rivera Beach, that's my neighborhood where I live, we had an engine going out the door with 1 person on it, driver only. That is incredibly dangerous. I'm a conservative. I'm on a fighter budget. I live in this area, 20 years. I'll spend $700 to raise my taxes 3 times a year. I don't care. I want to keep my family safe and my members safe. We can't put a price on safety. We are a security system for fire and EMS. When y'all having an emergency, we're there. 24 hours a day, we're at that station. Now in Pasadena, like I say, up until January, we had 1 person in. Now we have 2. We got 2 people. 1 person has to drive the engine and make sure that there's water in the hoses for our guys to put the fire out. It's incredibly dangerous, not only for my people, but for the citizens that we're here to serve and protect. In Pasadena alone, up in Orchard Beach, 2 people's coming to your house on a fire emergency. Rivera Beach, 2 people. Lake Shore, 2 people. These are dangerous levels. I cannot express how important it is to have 4 people on an engine coming to your house in a fire emergency. Fires today are burning a lot faster. The construction material they're using are a lot cheaper. 8 years ago, you had 8 minutes after your fire alarm could go off for you to get out of the house. Right now, you got 2 minutes. And we're not making it to your house with 2 people in 2 minutes. I'm sorry. We're just not going to do it. We don't have the staffing. We don't have the stations. I'm here to support the Fire Chief Wolford's fire department budget. Please fund this budget. My family's safety relies on it, and so is every person in this room. We rely on the safety. Don't put a price on safety, please.
Hello, Brian Holtzlander. I am your neighborhood firefighter paramedic. I serve out of Jacobsville and serve the communities from there to Lakeshore. And I just want to say thank you for the continued privilege to do so. The whole reason we're here and we're wanting to speak with our representatives and with you guys is because this is not just our occupation. This is our heart. We want to go out the door and be able to do our job to the best of our ability and to keep people safe. There's nothing worse than to be on the bumper of your rig, bent over with your elbows on your knees and wonder if I just had one more person, could we have gotten them out? Could we have got that ladder to the window? Could we have got that hose line up to the stairs. And so our president talks a little bit about national standard being 4. There's a number of reasons for that, and it's because there are physics involved in our little world. A fire hose full of water, weighs hundreds of pounds, and add friction on how you pull that upstairs and across somebody's front yard, and 1 and 2 people are not going to get very far. Same with getting a ladder up a window and then pumping the water through the hose. District 3 is where I serve, and I see this every day. Like you said, your communities are served by 2 people. It's inadequate. We have done the best we can, but we're fighting every day with our hand tied behind our back. So we do appreciate County Executive Pittman's support in getting the additional person at Revere Beach, but we do have a long way to go. So thank you for your continued support, your continued privilege to serve you, and we look forward to working together with everyone to make sure that you have the fire department that you deserve and that we so desperately want to give you.
Thank you, and we'll call up our next 4, Philip Miller, Dale Waldroff, Debbie Jason, and Brendan Maltese. If you'll come up to the mics, you'll get 3 minutes, and please state your name at the beginning of your testimony.
My name's Philip Miller. I live in District 3. I also want to thank this young lady. Thanks for looking out for little people. Me being a little person, we don't get recognized that much, so thank you very much. Councilman Volke, County Executive Pittman, I've lived in this county my entire life. 40 years. I was a volunteer firefighter from 1986 to 1996 at Revere Beach Volunteer Fire Company. I've been a career firefighter now since 1996, going on 23 years. What I have noticed in those 23 years is just what the county executive said. Our call volume has increased 5%, at least 5% each year. In 1990, the Tanier Cove community was built. In 2011, the reserve at Stony Creek was built. In 2014, both Tanier Spring and Creekside communities were built. All this building, but no additional staffing for police, no additional staffing for fire. Schools are becoming overly crowded. You want us to give the citizens what they deserve, which this county deserves the best that it can absolutely do. And like President Avinola said, we're not advocating for taxes, but it's 2019. It's time that we operate on a budget that we can operate safely on, not on a shoestring budget like we've been operating on for years past. The past county executive had a SAFER grant for 50 firefighters. He canceled that SAFER grant after we went to binding arbitration. That would have helped us out tremendously. So I urge you, County Executive Pittman, Councilman Volke, to look to Chief Wolford and her budget and provide the services this county deserves and needs. Again, we're in 2019. We're doing nothing but growing, and it's time that we grow with everybody else. Thank you.
Good evening, Mr. Executive Pittman and Councilman Volke. First, I want to express my gratitude for holding these meetings. It's good to hear from the public, and I appreciate that.
Dale, can you pull the mic up to your a little bit? Thanks.
Yes, hello. Thank you. I come to talk to you today, one as a detention officer for Anne Arundel County, and also as the president of the Anne Arundel County Detention Officers Union. As my friend and Union Secretary Fred Font said last week at your previous meeting, don't forget corrections. The reason I say that is that we look at the the interactive county budget tool and all, and we can adjust for police and fire and teachers and counselors and all that, 5, 10, 25, 50, 100. I'm not here to argue against that. I believe in that. What I'm asking you for specifically is fund the positions I've got. I've got 242 positions I'm allocated. I'm at 199. That's not safe. You can't make it up through overtime. Going back, 2 administrations ago, it started going downhill. We were actually making staffing improvements. and then the previous administrations stopped, and it's not safe. We are part of the war on drugs. We're part of the war on your gangs. Drugs are in our institutions. You talk about how do we pay for it? We had a position, we had an agreement with the federal government. They ended it. I would like to work with, I can't make position, or I can't make policy decisions, that's up to you, but if willing, I would like to work with your administration, work with my administration, and see if we can sit down and talk to the feds, and maybe we can bring back, a program that we're putting, at least $400,000 into the general fund every month. That's how we pay for things. And again, I'm not asking for more staffing. I'm just asking that we fund the staff that we've got and actually fill those positions. Thank you.
Hello, I'm Debbie Jason. I live across the street. I would like to request public transportation. It does not exist in Pasadena. You pretty much have to go out to Route 2, which is like, 4 or 5 miles away from me. A bit much to ask my children to walk or even bike. And I have a 16-year-old who attends AACC. He doesn't drive. Even once he takes driver's ed, he won't be able to drive by himself for a number of months because of the way we do driver's ed, the whole license process now, and we can't afford a car for him. He needs to be able to ride a bus to get there, or else I'm driving him back and forth all the time, and I have another child. I homeschool my kids, and my 12-year-old has lots of different kinds of homeschool activities than his 16-year-old brother does. The 16-year-old needs to be able to take public transportation. Not only that, but when he gets a job, still no car, he needs to be able to get to the job, and not everything's within walking distance of here. He also wants to go to Annapolis by himself. It'd be great. Sidewalks, another thing we're kind of lacking. Sidewalk down, Fort Smallwood, Edwin Rayner. We have shoulders. They're huge. We can use the shoulders, put in sidewalks, put in bike lanes. That would be fantastic. My kids would really like to go to Wendy's, and I don't want to drive them. I don't want fries. Tick Neck Road. My children want to go to Daily Scoop. My kids really want to go walking and biking around the neighborhood, okay? They want to go down to the awesome ice cream shop we have. They can't get there safely going down Tick Neck Road because we don't have sidewalks down there, except for like a little part here, and then you have to cross the street to get a little, sidewalk there. They're walking out in the street where the cars are going by, and everybody around here speeds. Duval Highway. You can't walk from here to the elementary school, to the middle school, without walking in the street. And cars go down that road real fast. You got these big trucks. I don't know how they're not hitting people walking down the street. There are people walking, pushing their children in strollers in the street to get from place to place. You've got kids on their skateboards and on their bikes in the street, down this road that people speed down that's really tiny. It'd be nice to have something pedestrian friendly. What else? Yay for the library. I support funding for the library. Again, we homeschool. We use the library a lot. Like half our curriculum is library books. It's fantastic. And the schools. I'd like to say, as a homeschooler, I see a lot of people come into the homeschooling community from Anne Arundel County. They're homeschooling largely. They're leaving the schools because their kids with disabilities needs are not being met. The IEPs are not adequate, or they're not being met in the classroom, so we need more aides, or something. People do not homeschool well when they are homeschooling resentfully, when they are forced into it. It's not what we want them to be doing if it's not what they want to be doing. That's it. Thanks.
Good evening. My name is Brendan Maltese. Tonight I'm speaking on behalf of my family and as the president of the Creekstone Village Townhouse Owners Association. Last year, the county completed a study on making improvements to Jumpers Hole Road between Ritchie Highway and Mountain Road. This stretch touches Walmart, multiple shopping centers, the communities of Woodholm, Ashbury, and Creekstone Village, and it passes under the Route 10 and 100 interchange. Jumpers is currently a single lane in each direction. It contains segments of sidewalks and shoulders in some areas, but they abruptly disappear where the road narrows. The major intersections at either end are no longer adequate. The Jumpers at Ritchie intersection alone has had 50 reported accidents in the last 2 years. And without a traffic light at the entrance to Creekstone and Ashbury, don't even bother attempting a left turn after 6 a.m. Needless to say, this stretch of road needs help. On paper, a half mile of road might seem insignificant, but I strongly believe some small enhancements would have a huge impact on connecting dozens of businesses and communities in the vicinity. The county's recommended improvements include adding that traffic light and turn lanes, completing the sidewalks on one side and a full-length shared-use path on the other, crosswalks, and overhauls of both major intersections. From our house, we're half a mile from the B&A Trail. As someone who grew up in Severna Park, I know how valuable this trail is, and it was a significant factor in choosing our home. I'm generally pretty comfortable riding on the street with traffic, but taking jumpers across Route 2 makes me very uneasy. In all honesty, the general degree of danger in getting to the B&A has kept me from using the trail almost altogether. It takes longer to strap my bike to the car than it takes to actually drive there, and doing that sort of defeats the purpose of living so close in the first place. A neighbor spoke at the District 4 hearing about getting hit by a car riding his bike, but what he didn't mention was that he was talking about this very stretch of jumpers. The necessity of this project encompasses much more than just recreational access. In my experience, at any given moment, there's at least somebody walking on jumpers, and they're usually either wearing a Walmart uniform or have Walmart bags in their hands. Jumpers is the only route to get there from Sun Valley and Freetown. The fact that people so frequently walk this route, even now in the cold weather, tells me that there's probably also a hidden demand for even more people who may choose to leave their car at home for short trips if they felt more safe doing so. Given the serious traffic issues we face, we need to be making sure roads have safe pedestrian and cyclist access before looking at increasing vehicular capacity. With more development pending in the area, our problems are only going to get worse. I ask that you put the impact fees from our development at Creekstone Village toward funding this project in this year's budget. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll call our next four. We have Stephen Victor, Michelle Cool, David Cohn, you're a maybe, so this is your chance, and P. Hertzler, it looks like.
All set?
Yep, state your name and you'll have 3 minutes.
Yes, sir. How you doing? Stephen Victor. Nice to meet you, Mr. Pittman and Mr. Volke. I'm from Catonsville, Maryland. Recently moved to Pasadena after I met my wife 7 years ago. It was make a decision. We were either going to move to Florida or try and plant some roots around here. So her family's from Pasadena, so I couldn't pry her away even with warm weather and beaches. But so chose Pasadena. Yeah, chose Pasadena as a good option. Some great schools, great community. We love it around the water. We were looking for a permanent house for a while because we'd moved once out of Chesterfield into a single family home, and that grew too small after the first child. So we hurried up quickly decided, let's just look for one more rather than moving again, because moving is a pain. So we found, I think we looked at like 50 houses before we found one. And when we found, we had to add 2 bedrooms to it and another bathroom. And so, but we built our house because we fell in love with the community there. So it's off of Ventnor Road, next to Botkin. And currently my son is 6, he attends there. And my daughter's 3, she'll be attending there hopefully next year. And then we take him to school every day, so we'll drive him down, myself or my wife. But I was hoping to, in the future, maybe make the travel path to school a little safer. So there's a sidewalk portion that runs down all the way to the wooded section of Ventnor, and then it just kind of goes away. It actually just ends when you go to the woods, and there's no like shoulder or anything. And there's a lot of people who actually travel that for to and from school, a lot of kids, a lot of parents, and same with something somebody else said is like strollers. They'll be pushing small children, and people do kind of speed a little bit down that portion, myself included. You know, gets away from me, and I'll slow down as soon as I see somebody. So we try and be mindful of that. But yeah, if it's like even on one side of the road, if we could have just a small portion of sidewalk, maybe a quarter mile long, that will allow safe travel for my son into the neighborhood, and maybe one day he could ride his bike, or my daughter could even attend with him to and from school, because all 3 of them are up there. So that's what I was trying to look for. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Patricia Hertzler, and I came out of retirement to take a position teaching English as a second language at George Fox Middle School. I want you to know I have a student from Bangladesh, one from India, one from Thailand, one from China, 4 from Puerto Rico, 3 from El Salvador, 1 from Guatemala, 3 from Syria, 1 from Vietnam, and 1 from Sierra Leone. I'm at George Fox under the current funding levels 2 days a week. And so I am supporting the school board, the budget presented to you by the school board, especially the part that supports additional staffing for teachers of English as a second language. I have a couple more minutes. I want to also encourage you, thank you, Executive Pittman, for passing or endorsing or signing that law or regulation about styrofoam. Yes. But I would like to suggest that it's going to not go into effect until 2020 sometime, right? The date I'm not sure of. But I would like to suggest that you open some sort of a location where we can take our styrofoam to dispose of it properly so that it's handled properly and not just put in the trash when that regulation goes into effect. So, thank you.
Thank you. And I will tell you, Patricia, there is a facility in Crofton that will accept it, so it's a little far, but it's privately run, but you can drop it off in Crofton, and our folks can get you that information.
Hi, I'm Michelle Cowell. Thank you for listening and having us here today. I want to let you know I was at the march yesterday. Maybe you saw my sign. The sign said, "Investments in education pay the best interest." So that's what I want to talk about just real quick today. I really don't need to say much because a lot of folks have talked about it already. But just to tell you a little bit about myself, I'm a 19-year educator. I teach at the college level. But I'm a parent of 2 teenagers in the public schools. I moved to Anne Arundel County 11 years ago, and I came here for the schools. I did not come here because the taxes were low. I really didn't pay much attention to that. But I have seen the class sizes grow. I've seen clubs disappear. I have neighbors who are teachers who are struggling. My daughter came home just last week. She's in Project Lead the Way at the high school, and a teacher just quit. She's not going to have him next year because he's going to go be an engineer at Northrop Grumman because he just couldn't deal with the salary disparity anymore as much as he liked to teach. So I'm here as a parent in support of the teachers. 2 years ago, I started paying a little more attention to what was going on locally, and I've watched the budget hearings, and I've watched those teachers get up, and I guess I'm asking you to protect what's in their budget. Dr. Orlado did a good job. The Board of Ed had some amendments that did a little bit more. I was hoping for a little bit more, but I'm asking you to protect what's in there for them, for teacher pay, and specifically to fix that disparity in their pay that arose from the pay freeze and the hiring practices and so forth. So I just want to speak on their behalf. And just a final comment, I really like the budget website. I think it's really useful. Just to see that 0.1% of income tax increase brings in $9.7 million for the budget. I mean, I don't like the idea of taxes going up any more than anybody else, but when you see the power of the large numbers, it really goes a long way to kind of teach people on what you can do with a small change, and you can get a lot out of those changes. So thanks for listening. I'll go sit down.
Hi, I'm Dave Kahn. I'm from Pasadena. I like to keep things short. I'd like to put in a word for our public library system, or add to the words for the public library system, which helps people in so many ways without making a lot of noise, which is probably appropriate. I'm especially impressed by its commitment to help all, and I stress all, even the poorest residents, lift themselves up. Its commitment to keep pace with the rapidly expanding digital world, and of course, its commitment to the value of knowledge and the written word. Roughly half of our annual budget goes to public schools. If we think that educating our children is that important, should we not also consider that what our libraries are doing is providing us adults with the knowledge we need for the rest of our lives. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have any more sign-ups? Okay, bear with me for 1 sec. We got a couple more folks signed up, and then we will open it up to anybody who did not sign up. So I'd like to call, looks like either Maurice O'Connor or maybe Monica O'Connor, Benjamin Elefte, and Uju Inya Aga. Those are our last three.
Hi. So I am from Anne Arundel County, and I'm really heartened to hear all the concerns that people have.
Can you say your name?
Sure, about their immediate needs. But I'm here representing a whole bunch of high school students that will be striking for the climate in Annapolis.
Can you just state your name? So
oh, sorry, Monica O'Connor.
Thank you.
Monica. An existential crisis that students seem to understand better than a lot of adults. I think some of that is because adults are dealing with issues of paying the bills and getting their children safely to school and those kind of things. But the students who a few years from now will be dealing with the fallout from our lack of planning understand the urgency. So there is this strike. There's a strike that's going to be national, 800 strikes throughout the country, and there's one in Annapolis on Friday, to raise awareness so that politicians can start taking it as seriously as the students do and legislating well for their students' futures. So I'm actually wondering what this administration is going to do specifically on some of the issues surrounding climate change. And some of the suggestions tonight about transportation is one enormous one. We all know transportation in Anne Arundel County, and actually in the state of Maryland, is pretty awful, public transportation. And that's a huge thing. Another thing, I believe the county, under our last administration, the fee in lieu for developers when they would cut down trees was the smallest amount in the state. And I think, obviously, increasing that will give us a lot more money for our own budget, and we'll be better able to protect our own environment. Trees are the best way to sequester and to preserve the bay. Apart from that, I wonder what's happening with the solar pilot programs. From what I understand, no pilot programs are in Anne Arundel County, which means that the other counties outside of Anne Arundel are doing the community solar programs. We are missing out on that, which means we're missing out on jobs and opportunity. And finally, I just want to talk for a second about the Volkswagen lawsuit. Maryland was given a whole bunch of money from that lawsuit, and it's being used for electric buses as a pilot program. And there are other counties that are taking advantage of starting to transfer their school buses, it's for school buses, to electric buses. And I am just asking the county to look into that, and I'd be happy to look into it too. So thank you.
Good evening, County Executive Pittman. Good evening, County Executive Pittman and Councilman Volk. Sorry. My name is Benjamin Elif. I am a 6th grader at Severna Park Middle School. I moved to Maryland 4 years ago from Pennsylvania. My parents told me they chose this area because the schools are so good. I love my school, especially my teachers. I know teachers don't earn as much as other professions. This seems crazy to me because even though I'm a kid, I know how hard it can be to teach other kids because sometimes me and my fellow classmates don't always act like we should in class. It seems to me that such an important job like teaching should be paid really well. People trust their kids with teachers and expect teachers to show their kids everything from how to write well and how to calculate things and how to play music and to cook and to exercise. All of these things are so important for our whole county, it just seems crazy to me that grown-ups aren't investing a lot of money in it. As a practical thinker, I feel like people who have more experience teaching should be paid more than those who have less years. If you're working for a longer time and you're not getting paid as much as someone who hasn't been working as long as you, they should not be getting more. I ask you to invest in the future of Anne Arundel County by investing in my education and the education of all Anne Arundel County students. My mom and dad say they won't mind paying more taxes to invest in our future. Thank you.
Good evening, County Executive Pittman, Councilman Volke. I really don't have very much to add. My name is Uju Inyaga. I live in Severna Park. I don't have too much more to add. A lot of tonight's speakers have really covered what I wanted to cover, but in the spirit of a picture being worth 1,000 words, I really just wanted to show that Anne Arundel schools trailing neighborhood counties, state average. And given that we're such a high income county, our performance really shouldn't be trailing the performance of lower income counties based on what we spend per student. And that's really all I wanted to say. Thank you.
Thank you all. We will now open the floor to anyone that didn't previously sign up. If you would like to come address the panel for 3 minutes, please state your name before your testimony.
Hi, my name is Skip Auld. I'm with Anne Arundel County Public Library. I live in the county, but not in this district. Here, I've been to 3 of these town halls. I think they're tremendous. Everybody speaking is speaking from such a place of passion, and I really, really am glad that you're conducting these, and I really appreciate what everyone has to say. Thinking of teachers, I'm reminded that I was a teacher once. Right the year I got out of college, I taught English as a second language in a small town in Iran. And I wanted to say that a lot of people have ideas about Iran based on the revolution that happened a few years after I was there, and the idea that they have ideas about Iran. In Iran, as a teacher in a small town, I was in a class of people that were considered really the highest people. They were held in the highest respect in many ways. And I think that if we as a society and as a county can get to the point where we believe in our teachers and respect them as much as the people of Iran respect their teachers, I think we will be in a really great place. But that was just sort of a side thought. What I really wanted to mention are a couple of other things. I've heard a lot about sidewalks in this meeting tonight. And when the new Revere Beach Library opens, we may have this in the works already, I'm not sure, but if we can get a sidewalk from Sunset Elementary to the new Revere Beach Library, that would be tremendous. Yeah. And then lastly, Dan Ramirez, who's the great manager there at Revere Beach Library, mentioned that on April 16th at 7 p.m. at the library, there's going to be a community meeting to talk about the design of this new library. I hope that everybody in this room will get to that meeting. It's going to be a time where you hear from the architects, see the designs that have been done. There have already been 2 or 3 community meetings, but I'm not even going to be able to be there. I'll be out of town that day. But April 16th, 7 p.m., Revere Beach Library. Thank you again.
If you don't mind, I'm going to face the residents. Good evening. My name is Charles Fowler. I'm a 20-year firefighter with Anne Arundel County. I've had the pleasure to serve just about every area of this county. Like my colleagues have already stated this evening, we are understaffed. Just to put a different light on why we're understaffed, there's a lot of things that we do, and we do them longer now. We talked about fires, but we also do CPR longer, based upon medical evidence that shows if we do CPR for a longer period of time with different drugs, we have a higher chance of getting a person's life back. In this county, we've seen that happen. However, it takes a tremendous amount of resources. So because we have only 2 people on certain apparatus, we have to send another piece of apparatus because we're on scene for almost 30, 40 minutes per state protocol, stuff that we're mandated to do by the state. By doing so, by having to send more apparatus from further away areas such as Severna Park or wherever, we create large holes in our service areas in Anne Arundel County. That means you, if you happen to have a medical emergency, have to wait for a longer period of time. So it's not just fires, it's medical. It affects all aspects of our service. We do safe stations. That takes units out of service for tremendous amounts of time. It's an excellent program. I believe it in 100%. However, we create more holes, and because of the understaffed units, we have to send more and more apparatus to that area to fill out a call. When it comes to fires, just the other day, we ran a fire in Brooklyn. Every home is occupied, in my mind, until I prove that it's not. We have vacant houses with homeless in it. Sometimes there's children at home by themselves. Until we go through there and search, we believe that it's occupied. I had a driver that had to throw a ladder by himself because we were inside searching the house. At the end, the commander correctly asked, well, why didn't you wait? There's someone else coming. Well, you can't wait when you're inside that fire. And who else was coming? Baltimore City. That's who we're relying on to fill in the gaps, because they have 4, and I knew that that truck was coming, but it was going to be delayed because they're not dispatched at the same time we are. We need the staffing. Anne Arundel County firefighters should be serving Anne Arundel County residents and not have to wait for other jurisdictions to pick up our slack. Thank you.
County Executive, Councilperson, my name is John Jason. I'm from District 3. You guys probably already heard from me over transportation, but I would like to address transportation, education, and the environment as things that we should consider for the budget going forward. Now, just getting over the tax cuts from 2018 at the federal level, I'm not really fond of advocating for more taxes, but still, I think they're necessary. Transportation. We know that it's an economic driver. We know that it's an environmental driver. Heck, the more transportation infrastructure that we have available, the less we have to spend to maintain our roads. Education. We know that every dollar that we put into education here and now, going forward, improves our lot towards the future. Sorry. Lost my train of thought there for a second. See, transportation. We know that better education also helps us interdict in the war on drugs. We know that better education will result in better jobs and better opportunities for tomorrow, for our children, which will bring a better tax base back to Anne Arundel County. We know that equipping our children to face the 21st century challenges that we're in the midst of now and are only getting worse will mean that they can tackle them and that they can handle them. So we know that we need to do these things. Finally, the environment. Anne Arundel County. Go out there, almost anywhere you could probably see water. Most of it you could probably see the bay. We know that we need to save these resources. We know that we need to maintain them for the future. We know it. We see the studies. We see the maps where certain parts of Anne Arundel County in the next generation or two very well could be underwater. We know this. We need to start dealing with it. We need to start focusing on it. These are the areas that our attention needs to be if we are going to hand a pristine, beautiful, sustainable Anne Arundel County to our children and to our grandchildren. Thank you, gentlemen.
Good evening, County Executive Pittman and Councilman Volke. My name's Adam Palinkas, and I live here in Pasadena in the Chesterfield neighborhood with my wife and 3 kids. I work as a professional firefighter in Anne Arundel County as a member of the Anne Arundel County Professional Firefighters, where I've worked for the past 16 years. When I applied for Anne Arundel County, it was because I wanted to serve the citizens of the county where I reside. I'm here today to talk about the fire department and the lack of staffing at the stations in our communities. In the fire service, the National Fire Protection Association, also known as the NFPA, sets standards for fire departments and states that fire engines should have a minimum of staffing of 4. My home resides in the area where the Jacobsville Fire Station is, and the first respondent fire engine and paramedic unit. Okay. The staffing there has a staffing of 3 on the fire engine, which means they are understaffed by 1. The next closest to my home is Armiger, which also has a staffing of 3. Also responding should my house be on fire is River Beach, Lake Shore, Early Heights, Orchard Beach, all of which often respond with a minimum staffing of 2. When you look at neighboring counties, they all have addressed the minimum staffing, while Anne Arundel County staffing falls below the standard. Our new fire administration is working to address our staffing shortages, and that is why I urge you to support Fire Chief Wolford's budget to increase staffing. Thank you in advance for your support and for the opportunity to talk at this Town Hall budget meeting.
Hi, I hadn't planned on speaking. My name is Debbie Crick, and I teach at High Point Elementary School. And this is my 29th year of teaching, all in the same school. I've had the privilege and honor of teaching children where I've taught their parents. And it's amazing to see how much the community in Pasadena loves education and loves the Dina. If you live in the Dina, you love the Dina. But some of the things that I'm concerned about is I've been teaching a long time, and when I got into teaching, I didn't get into it for the money, but I got into it because I love children and I wanted to make a difference in the world. But I know that teachers need to make a good living and to be able to get the things that they're promised. I work with a lot of young women and a few men that are amazing teachers. What they've done coming into education now is phenomenal, but we're going to start losing some of those people to other counties because we're not giving what they deserve. There's one young woman that I work with. She has been, I think, 12 years now, and she is being paid less than some of the new teachers that are coming in, and that's just a crime because of the things that were held back from us from previous administration. So I really hope that things get turned around so that we don't lose some of these fantastic teachers. Also, because of teaching at High Point Elementary School, I live over in Cottage Grove. So I know a lot about the traffic with Fort Smallwood and Duval Highway, and I would love to see sidewalks put in. Every morning when I come to school, I drive my daughter over to Northeast High School, where she goes here, and I see young kids coming. I think they're picking up buses to go to other like magnet schools in the county, and they're walking on the grass so that they can be safe, so that they don't get hit by cars. And the traffic in the morning is back-to-back bumper. So it's just really not a safe place for young people to be walking. As well as walking down Duval Highway. There's hardly any room for anybody to walk, and I watch kids go back and forth on that as well. So I would like to see sidewalks also become a priority. And the Revere Beach Library has done a lot for the kids at least at High Point. The teachers are always encouraging them to go get library cards and get the books, because a lot of people can't always afford to have books in their home all the time. So I also support the River Beach Library. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is O'Brien Atkinson. I'm the representative of the Anne Arundel County Fraternal Order of Police, representing our police officers of the rank of corporal and below. I've been doing this for 18 years now, and I want to thank you for having this town hall. It's a real budget town hall. It means a lot to not only the citizens, but the employees alike. Each year during budget session, I have elected officials contacting me saying, hey, you'll tell me, where's the fat in the budget? Where's the fat in the police department's budget? And I tell them the same thing every year. There's no fat in our budgets. We are county government, but each year when budgets are introduced, traditionally they're introduced saying, hey, give us your budget and make it 5% and 10% of what it was the year before, and we'll consider it. And we've done that year after year after year. We've lost police officers, we've canceled academy classes, and we don't run short at the police department. When we don't have enough officers to provide for a shift, officers are ordered or volunteer to come in early or stay in late. And that's 4 hours at a time, and it's wearing on our police officers. I can tell you that. Our staffing, we've been trying to work on getting our numbers up. We've been very, very unsuccessful, and I think a lot of that is because of our traditional approach to government. I'm hoping that we have a change in approach, and I'm hoping that it will result in more police officers here than we're used to, and certainly a good number of police officers that we need, because police officers aren't going to come here voluntarily when they hear that we're being attacked, our health care benefits are being attacked, our pay is being attacked. When they hear that we're taken care of as county employees, they're going to come, and they will apply here. Right now, we're hiring. Anybody who's interested, please apply. We've got a very good police department, and we'd like to keep it that way. So thank you very much.
Okay, seeing no other movement, I think that's our last word up. Here we go. Last call. Last call.
I do agree with most of the things that people are concerned of. Actually, I agree with all of them. The tax thing is a little bit hard for us as a resident of Anne Arundel County.
Can you say your name, ma'am?
Oh, I can. It's Pauline Elliott.
Thank you.
I really wanted to share just a personal story, but it does affect everyone. I have more than one daughter, but the daughter that I'm talking about, she went to all the schools in this feeder system. She went to Anne Arundel Community College. She desired to be a paramedic her whole life. And she did eventually become a paramedic. She went to UMBC. But she couldn't find anywhere in Anne Arundel County that could suit the pay that she needed to make. I mean, starting out, she didn't need to make a whole lot of pay. She still lived at home. She came back home, but she still couldn't make enough money to just pay her few bills and a little bit of rent. And she ended up leaving the state totally in order to make enough money to be a paramedic, and she's a firefighter as well. She has seen a lot of dangers. She's lost a lot of people too, officers, to tragedies because there's no one there to help them. It's scary. And she said even where she is, her fire departments there's more than enough. And it's still a really hard, scary job and what she sees, and it's sad. Our county has firefighters that go out, and they do so much in the county. Our police officers do so much in the county when they're not working. They're out there sharing in the community events. They all do the Santa Claus thing, and that is so impactful on the kids when they go to the schools on career day. Kids just love that. And we do need to enrich the future, keep our resources, the good teachers, the police officers, the paramedics, firefighters. This is what kids want to grow up and be. My daughter wanted to grow up and be that. So when she turned in her point shoes after many years and put on that fire gear, and I timed her over and over and over and over just so she could do this. So they work very hard to get there. I know a lot of people do work hard to get there, but I definitely think that our fire departments are a priority. Over everything is a priority. Thank you.
Tim from Glen Burnie. I have two things. I have one question. As a county, can a county lay a value-added tax on purchasing like they do in Europe or whatever, where you can't?
No, the state would have to let us,
That was just something I was wondering about, because it would be a great revenue, great way to get revenue. I know that, hey, we're all wanting to seem very progressive here and spend a lot of money on stuff, but a way to do it will be a value-added tax. I mean, we cap our taxes out here at 3.2%, and you can only raised the property tax rate so much. So people want a lot of things, and I mean, I think that's something you should look into if they can, I mean, lay a value-added tax on things. If people want stuff that bad, they'll put their money where their mouth is. Also, what about speed suppression, where that's a great revenue generator? Also, I live on Marley Neck Road, and that's a 50-mile-per-hour road where it should probably be a 35-mile-per-hour road with as many people that live there at this point. Why can't we get traffic cameras, speed cameras up now at important points in the county? And it would be something to be good for the county. I don't have a problem with it. Sometimes I claim I hate speed cameras, but if they work and they bring in revenue, use them. Why not? Thank you.
Thank you, and I think that's our last word. Thank you all. I think, oh, here we go. All right, look, this is the real last call. If you want to come down and speak, come sit in the front row. When that front row's empty, we're going to move on.
I want to back up Tim on speed suppression.
Can you
Baltimore
say your name?
City makes 45 million. Oh, my name is John Hautada. I live up the street.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I was fired up. Baltimore City alone, just on red light cameras, so people skipping red lights, makes $45 million a year or more. That's a lot of money. It's unbelievable the amount of money that they make with speed cameras. They have a camera right over here and coming off 695 by the Coast Guard Yard. And there's another one. There's another one in Arnold. There's another one over there by College Parkway. And I know that when I sit there, that sucker's flashing over and over and over again. It's a lot of money. A lot of money can be made nailing people on their cell phone driving. I drive Ritchie Highway every day, and I count sometimes 30, 40, 50, 100 people on their cell phones. At $50 a pop, that'll give you 100 people a day. You get $1.5 million a month. You know, it's a lot of money for people being stupid because they're not supposed to do it. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. You guys have been a great audience. I think my timer only went off once, so very well done. And to close us out tonight, we're first going to have remarks from Councilmember Volke, followed by County Executive Pittman. So, Mr. Volke?
Yeah, absolutely. The county executive and I were just joking. You might want to put him for police chief, so we'd be happy to look at that. I just want to thank everybody who came out tonight. You know, the civic engagement, in my opinion, is just tremendous. And that young man over there, Benjamin, thank you for coming out, being a sixth grader. I love to see young people getting involved, so thank you for being here, buddy. It's been, I believe, a tremendous event this evening. It's been helpful for me to hear the perspective from the community. I'm sure that the county executive feels the same way. And, you know, budgets reflect priorities. They do. And budgets are really, really difficult. And, again, credit to the fact that we're out here before and we're not showing you a budget saying, here's what we're doing. We're trying to listen. So I think that that's a great thing that this administration is doing, and I want to give them credit for that. And it's much better that it's happening, that we're hearing from you, the citizens, as opposed to, again, there's that dirty word, bureaucrats, you know, who are saying, here's what it is. And frankly, I don't think bureaucrat's a dirty word, by the way. My parents were bureaucrats, so I get it. But I really just appreciate it. I appreciate the priorities that we've heard. I've heard libraries, I've heard sidewalks, I've heard schools, I've heard teacher pay. We have heard you. I know I have, and I know the county executive has. And I would be remiss if I didn't say I heard the firefighters who were here in force tonight. So those guys are here as well. So with that, we've got a lot of work to do. The county executive has the first crack at this thing, and then the county council is going to get it, and we're going to have to work on it, and we're going to have to put something together that reflects the priorities of Anne Arundel County as we, you know, live in it and as the reality is today. But again, I can't thank you enough for taking time out of your evening to be here. I can't thank you enough for being part of this process and just giving us an opportunity to hear from you, because that is so important to us. It's easy to lose that, and so thank you.
I'm gonna stand. I've been sitting for a really long time, and my back is getting kind of a crick, so I'll stand up. Thank you for coming out. I mean, that's the most important thing I want to say, and I feel pretty good about what I'm hearing. I mean, you know, there's some question about whether people have a lot of faith in their government. And I think at the local level, people have more faith than they do at the federal level. And we have to earn that trust in local government. And the fact that people are coming up here and saying they want more of what local government does. They want more teachers, they want more firefighters, they want more police, they want more libraries, they want all of it, you know, which is great because it means that it's important what local government is doing. I also just want to let you know that this really works, what you're doing, because hearing it across the table in a presentation from a department is very different from hearing it from you all with passion. And the things that you say, I mean, I heard a lot about sidewalks tonight, and you know, we're talking about sidewalks in those budget meetings, and in fact, got a lot of locations for sidewalks as well, and it really does work. Some of you have been to multiple meetings of these, and that works as well. I mean, you're not only talking to me and you're talking to the council person, you're talking to the people who came and listened. There are a lot of people who did not speak, and I know that you all, I hope you found it worthwhile, not because of what I say or Councilman Volke says, but because of what your neighbors said. And that's important. I did want to point out that there's some staff people here who didn't have to be here. We have our Chief Administrative Officer, Ben Burge, who oversees all the departments, who just seems to like to come out to meetings and listen to the citizens. And Jennifer Purcell, our Chief of Staff over here, who's been to every one of them. And we specifically told department heads they did not need to attend these, but here they are. So we have Phil Hager in the back, Planning Department, Director of Planning. And we have Greg Africa back here, who starts on tomorrow, right? Is that your? Thursday. Okay, I was thinking today was Wednesday, as our new Director of Inspections and Permits. So wish him well. So yeah, I heard about, I mean, Ann Allen, who's 9 steps behind as a teacher, and I heard about Rivera Beach having 130,000 visitors in a year, Rivera Beach Library, sorry. It was great to have some Anne Arundel Community College professors. I mean, I feel as though community college is probably the most undervalued institution in this county, with 50,000 students coming through and making people ready for the jobs that they do. I heard some quotes. I liked "Our kids can't wait" as the new slogan for the teachers. Don't put a price on safety, I think I heard from a firefighter. Another firefighter talked about how heavy those hoses are going into a burning building. And Chris Trumbauer and I got to experience that. It took more than 2 of us to actually take the hose into the burning building. When we went to Fire Ops 101, you were there as well, right? The firefighters are smart. They get all the candidates for office to come and learn about what it's like to be a firefighter and how difficult it is. And they have that test building where you go in and you put out a fire. The hoses are heavy, and it took about 10 of us, so I can't imagine, to drag the hose. So I can't imagine 2 people doing it or 1 person trying to do it. Don't forget corrections. Thank you, Dale, if you're still here. Our corrections officers it's often forgotten that they're part of public safety, and they probably have the toughest job of anybody. No public transportation in Pasadena. I agree. There's almost no public transportation anywhere in Anne Arundel County, and we have to do better with that. And we also have to do better with sidewalks. Getting people out of their cars is a good thing, in my view, and we're going to have to do more of that. It was good to hear somebody talk about climate change and the climate student strike on Friday. I did not know that was going on. And fee in lieu on forest conservation, something we are looking at. We were talking today about with Public Works, and we were talking about the landfills, and we got off topic, which put us way behind schedule, because we started talking about all the great things that can be done at the closed landfills. We're already getting energy, from the gases, but putting solar panels up. And then if we put solar panels and we do the gases, the other things that we could do. Maybe we could have a station for electric vehicles to come and hook up right there at the landfill and have a fleet of them for Anne Arundel County. So we are starting to think about the future. Thank you, Benjamin Ellis. I agree with you. The teachers need to be paid more. And police. We got Obi talking about police. I think the police officers are so polite. They tend to listen more and speak less, but we know they have great needs. We do need to recruit more. We have a great class right now in the Academy of Recruits. I can tell you that because I jumped in the Chesapeake Bay with them and it was very cold. We took the plunge together, and man, the enthusiasm of those police recruits is fantastic. So we're really lucky that we have such great public safety folks in our county, employees all over the county government, teachers, which are part of county government as well. We sometimes forget, and we do have to deliver. And one person mentioned the tax cuts from last year, the federal tax cut, and I have to tell you that when I look at this Poverty Amidst Plenty report that you brought up, we're about to release the next report for Anne Arundel County. It's true that there's a bigger spread between those at the bottom end and those at the top end, and the tax cuts just keep going to the people at the top end. And the corporations got a 40% cut in their taxes in that federal tax cut, and the folks at the top got the cut, and we know that's where the money is. And we don't really have the authority at the local level to do progressive taxation. We know some taxes are more progressive than others, but I intend to go to the state next year and try to get the authority to make our taxes more progressive so that we don't hurt the people at the bottom. We have to, the thing I don't like about property taxes is that it hurts the people who are on a fixed income, who've already paid off their house, and their property tax on that house is a big chunk of their monthly Social Security payment, and we have to protect those folks. So we're going to get back to work. We got more budget meetings tomorrow, and we got them just about every day for the month of March. We have a few more of these, and May 1st, it's showtime, and I have to put together a budget, present it to you all, and then go hide. So thank you all for coming. Let's just keep on staying involved. Thank you.